there, today I am filming what I hope to be a tarot unboxing. I order tarot cards, tarot decks all the time, and so there's really not a week that goes by that I'm not getting one delivered to my front door. And I've been wanting to do these, but I usually end up opening them, and this one I actually haven't opened, and I actually am not 100% sure that it is actually a tarot deck, but it sounds like one. It's definitely the shape of one, and it's coming from a company that's called Usi, U-U-S-I, from Chicago. So we're gonna go ahead and open it and see what's in here. Okay, so I'm seeing a box that looks like this. Oh, wow. So here is this wooden tile. I think I know what this is now. This is actually, this is cool. This is a little card stand. So you put this piece in here, and it makes a little display for you to put a tarot card on. So I could put this on my altar or on my reading table if there was one specific card that I wanted to focus on. And I thought that that was a cool thing that I ordered when I also ordered this deck. So it's in a bag like this. Let's see which one this is. Ooh, okay. This is really, really beautiful. This is called the Pagan Otherworlds deck. I'll go ahead and give you guys a close-up, and even the packaging is really, really beautiful. Look at the stamp on here. And this is really a beautiful gold embossed box. It says 2016 Usi, I don't know if I'm saying that right, printed in Taiwan by the Expert Playing Card Company, New York, New York. And that's interesting because most tarot decks that you get in the United States anyway are printed by US Games Company. So this is printed by a different card company, and the size of the cards are a little bit larger than a standard. They're definitely oversized cards. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And I'll tell you guys, usually why I order decks online, where I find them, oftentimes I'm doing research, and that might be for a class I'm teaching or when I'm writing my newsletter. And so I'm searching different specific cards, doing like a Google image search, and when I come across an image that I find interesting, then I'll look up what the deck it is, and if it's something that's available, I'll oftentimes order it. Another place that I love buying tarot decks is on Kickstarter, where I can actually just do a search for tarot decks that are coming out, and oftentimes you can find really, really cool things on there. Now, you're not guaranteed that those are going to actually be funded and come to fruition, but if they do, you know that you're getting potentially something that's limited edition, and you're also, you know that that money's going directly to the artist that's creating it. So you can find some pretty cool stuff on there. So again, this is the box. And this is the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. And I think that I remember now that when I ordered this, they only had maybe 3 or 4 different decks available. I'm going to open this. Actually, I'm going to see if I can open it at the bottom and not break that seal. Yeah, these are opening, and they're not wrapped in plastic. So sometimes you open this box and there's plastic wrap inside. But actually these are not wrapped in plastic. Okay, let's take a look. The very first card that I see is called the Seeker. It has an infinity sign at the top. I'm guessing that this may be a card that corresponds to the Fool, as the Fool is the 0 card. Sometimes it's also the 22nd major arcana, so that might be what this infinity sign is indicating, that it can be either the first or last card in the deck. And it looks like this is painted in oil. So, you know, tarot decks can come in any, sometimes they're actually computer graphics, sometimes they're paintings that have been reproduced as a card format. And that's what, so far, it looks like this is. So that's the Seeker. Oh, wow. Okay, this next card, I don't know if this is going to show on camera, but this is actually gold embossed. I think that you can see that. It's really beautiful. I think that this is not actually one of the cards, but just maybe a title card. Because the standard tarot deck has 78 cards, that means that oftentimes there are often 2 extra cards that are not part of the deck. Just like in a standard deck of playing cards, oftentimes you get those extra little cards along with it. And the reason is that when the cards are printed, when they're cut, they're printed in an even number. So for this case, they wouldn't be printing 78. They'd have 2 extra spaces because they'd have maybe 10 rows of 8. So they have 80 total spots that they're printing. So they use those 2 extra spots, and that's where they print what, I don't know what the technical term is, but maybe like a title card, or sometimes you get like an extra bonus card. So I'm not sure. There's a little tiny trademark down here in the bottom that might be an artist mark. And the back of these cards, by the way, have the same design as the box. So while this could be an Ace of Pentacles or an Ace of Discs, I'm not sure until we look at the next card. Oh, wow. Okay, so look at this. This was the card. This was the first card. This is the second card. And now I'm starting to wonder if this is actually a tarot deck or if this is an oracle deck, because clearly this is a crescent moon, and I'm seeing that this might be symbolizing the moon phases, that this is a full moon. And then we see just the beginning of a waning moon with that partial, this isn't a crescent moon, but this black crescent here indicating that this is a waning moon. It's getting smaller from the full moon down to the new moon. And yep, sure enough, we have the half moon here. And then there's the crescent moon. And then there's the new moon. Then let's see what comes next. Okay. Oh, here's the Fool. So that is telling me that this first card, the Seeker, that we saw here is not the Fool. That is an extra card. And then we had 5 of these moon cards, different phases of the moon. And they could also be considered in the opposite direction, from the new moon to the waxing moon, which is getting larger. And that would also be dependent on which way was up, because typically from the full moon, depending upon which way the crescent is facing, if you see a crescent that is pointing toward where the points are pointing to the left, then that is an indicator of it being a waning moon that's getting larger. And if the points are pointing to the right, then that would be I'm sorry, did I say that right? It's waxing if it's pointing to the left, and it's waning, it's getting smaller if it's pointing to the right. And I don't know if this video is going to show it in the direction that I'm holding it, but left pointing crescent is waxing, right pointing is waning. So this next card is the Fool, and pretty easy to identify right immediately. All of the usual aspects that you see in a classic Fool tarot card, where you see a man, he's standing on a cliff, he's got a dog next to him, he's holding a flower, and he has this little satchel over his shoulder. So this guy is also dressed in this sort of foliage covered, he has leaves, he has bells around his waist there. And one thing that I see that is not present in this card, which I always associate with the Fool, is that he doesn't have the sun up here. I always find the sun to be a very important component of the Fool because the sun represents source, sort of that driving force behind him and what he's connected to. And while the sky is it's a sunny day, you can even see those same mountains behind him that you see in a traditional Fool, but it's just kind of generally a sunny day. And then he definitely has different specific clothing than you would typically see. Let's look at our next card. So this is the Magician, and a similar kind of garb. He's doing the traditional magician pose, as above so below, pointing one hand to the sky and pointing one to the earth. And he's standing in front of what looks like some kind of a natural monument, like a tree stump. I thought that maybe he had a book in front of him here, but it looks like this is actually some kind of a almost like a natural pedestal or a podium that he is doing some work at. And I see now, going back to the name of this deck being Pagan Otherworlds, you can really definitely see the pagan kind of look of these cards. Next we have the High Priestess, and also she's out in nature. She's reclining here on this stone. She's not in her normal sort of temple that you would see her between the two pillars. She does have a book, however. She also is holding roses here. It looks like, no, actually, I think she's holding the branch of a pomegranate tree. I was going to say, it would surprise me to see her with roses, because roses are a symbol of desire and fertility, which would be more of an association with the Empress, where the High Priestess is more of a virginal kind of energy, but these are actually, this is a pomegranate branch there. There's tiny pomegranates, and she also has one foot in the water, and the water is a very important symbol for the High Priestess. She also has a little, what looks like almost like an adornment here with different phases of the moon hanging from it, because of course we know that the High Priestess corresponds with the moon. I'm just going to look at one more major card, and then we're going to look at some of the minors together. So the next card, as expected, is the Empress. She's pretty cool. Check her out. She has her symbolism in the form of this ring that she's holding in the shape of Venus. She also has a wand with a crystal orb up here, and she's got a crown with some ram's horns. And this is the natural setting that we do usually see the Empress in. She's out in nature. She's supported by a stone beneath her. She's there ruling her empire. So I'm going to flash forward and get into the minors. I'm just going to cut the deck and see where we land. And where we're landing here is on Knight of Pentacles. We see him. He's got a really beautiful kind of Celtic knot shield pentacle. He's on a rearing horse, and his outfit looks like it's almost made out of like a briar patch. It's all these kind of sticks and twigs all together, and the expression of this guy is definitely he looks a little bit questionable, a little bit his brow is furrowed. I'm not exactly sure what that is, what it is that he's looking at there, because his horse is definitely in sort of, it's rearing up. It implies that there's some kind of danger going on over here, where he looks like he's just kind of cowering almost a little bit. And with every card, I always think that it is important to consider what's going on beyond the edges of the card. Just because the main character that we see is here, it oftentimes implies that there's something before them or around them that we can get a sense of. That's oftentimes where we get the answers of what's really going on when we're using the cards for a reading. Let's just cut the deck again and we see the Six of Cups. So there's no person in this card. We just see 6 cups, and we see them sort of floating in the sky with this home, and there's a little cow down here. Okay, let's take a look again. And here's the Queen of Cups, classically depicted by the sea. And we see her there looking into her cup, doing some self-reflection, some introspection. Let's cut again, and we should be in Pentacles here. Oh, Swords. Well, I guess we saw Pentacles, so that means that these cards were not in the traditional order of Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles. Actually, we saw some Pentacles, then Cups, here's Swords, and this is the Eight of Swords. And again, it's a similar kind of scene that we might recognize Eight of Swords from a traditional deck like the Pamela Coleman Smith paintings for the Rider-Waite deck, but there's no figure. Now, in the classic interpretation, you see a figure standing with all of these swords around them in the ground, but here the figure is not present, but we see these swords that are stuck in the ground that indicate a limitation of thought and a feeling of being trapped based on information that you already have. We're going to take a look at one more. And we see the Four of Swords. Again, we can see that where the swords are placed are very similar to a classic interpretation, where normally we would see in a Four of Swords a figure laying here. They're kind of oftentimes asleep or meditating, or sometimes it looks actually like a tomb. And then there's this sword underneath here that might be a little hard to see, but these 3 swords are hanging down and then one down below. And the classic interpretation of the Four of Swords is rest and a peacetime during, in the interim of when there might be conflict before and after. Let's just go ahead and look at the very last card, and it's the Ace of Swords, and it looks very classic. It's very, very close to the Rider-Waite version, or the Marseille deck, where you have the sword, it's piercing a crown. You see the 2 branches on either side there. You see a laurel and an olive branch. You see the mountains down below, and you see the hand coming out of the clouds. So that is the very classic image of the Ace of Swords. I don't think that we saw any of the wands, so I'm just going to go ahead and... Oh, we did... No, that was the Empress. So let's just take a look at where the wands are in here, if I can find one. Okay. Here is the Eight of Wands. Very similar again to a classic image of the Eight of Wands, where those wands are flying through the air at a diagonal. And let's take a look at a few more of these. Here's the 4 and the 5, and again, similar theme that we've been seeing, which is that the wands themselves are present in a similar way that we're used to seeing them in other decks, but the figures are not present, they are only implied. You can definitely see the similarity in the 4 of Wands, that we would normally see some figures off in the distance here moving forward towards this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this unboxing, this really interesting, beautiful deck. And I do want to mention that the quality of these cards is really, really nice. It's an oversized deck. You can clearly see that these are all hand painted. The weight of the cards is nice and heavy. They're textured. They have that same kind of if you looked really up close, it's like a quilting. You're not going to see it on camera, but like a quilting pattern, like you would see on a deck of like bicycle playing cards, like a regular playing card that had kind of a waxy textured coating. That's what these cards have. So that means that they're going to last a long time. They're not going to scratch easily, and they should shuffle nicely. Although sometimes when you have a large deck like this, it can be a little cumbersome. And then also keeping in mind that this deck has a few extra cards, which you might shuffle in if you're doing a reading, or you might actually use these moon phase cards and then that seeker card as a as an oracle. You might use those separately. So overall, I'm very happy with what I see here. I think that this deck is really high quality and really beautiful and unique. And I encourage you guys to check out the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. Thanks.